In today's video, I survived 200 days in my hardcore ocean-only world, and honestly, this video has been a long time coming. If you haven't seen the first 100 days, then I highly recommend you go check it out first because I accomplished some crazy stuff. For these 100 days, I made 3 simple goals. First, I wanted to make an iron farm to solve my mining needs. Second, I wanted to make a creeper and a spider farm so that way I can get infinite TNT and string for those beautiful emerald trades. And number 3, I wanted to defeat the Ender Dragon, which I later found out that there's no end portal in this world, so if you want to see what happens, then you should totally watch until the end. Also, if you do go on to enjoy this video, then you should totally consider subscribing. It would really help me out because I'm pushing for the insane goal of hitting 1 million subscribers by the end of 2021. Also, don't forget to leave a like and let me know if you want 300 days in the comments below. Anyways, let's get right into day 101. On day 101, I began the day by checking my inventory, and honestly, the past me guy left me a complete mess, and he is a jerk. After cleaning out my inventory, I decided to begin collecting some dirt underwater so I could get rid of some of this ugly cobble. After collecting about 5 stacks of dirt, I placed the 13 item frames that I had made so far on some chests in my base, and I organized them into my rare resources. And don't worry, I also saved a nice spot for some juicy netherite that I might also get during these 100 days. After this, I leveled up one of my librarians to max level so I could buy a name tag, and I named my prized chicken Lord Chickenton the First. I then replaced a bunch of cobble with some dirt and grass, and I walled it in, and I freed Lord Chickenton of his boat prison so he could roam his new home. I spent the rest of the night clearing out more chunks underground in the hopes of uncovering a slime chunk for my auto bamboo farm. On day 102, I visited Lord Chickenton in the hopes that he had laid an egg, but I think he's a shy pooper, so I just gave him some space. While waiting for my boy to drop the load, I went back down to the mines to find some slime chunks and hopefully get some more iron so I can make my auto bamboo farm, and while down here I ended up finding 4 diamonds, which turned into 7 with fortune 3. And honestly, I really needed this because I'm sure some of you noticed in the last 100 days, but I made a second enchantment table by accident. So yeah. On day 103, I went back to the surface to empty my inventory when I noticed my leftover bad Fletcher was gone, and there was some rotten flesh kind of laying there. Well, it saved me from having to take care of it myself, I guess. I went back down to the mines and I continued clearing out new chunks, and not too long into it, I struck some more diamonds, and with fortune 3, I ended up with 10 more diamonds. That means that I found 17 diamondes in just the first 3 days of playing, which means that this is probably gonna be a pretty lucky run. I continued mining until day 104 and I found some more diamonds, but it was only 2 ores, but that's okay because the 2 chunks that I'm outlining are 100% slime chunks. How do I know, you may ask? I found this cool website called Chunkbase where if you put your world seed into the website Slime Finder, you can see which chunks in your world are actually slime chunks. And I will leave a link to this website in the description if you want to find some slime chunks of your own in your own worlds. Anyways, while clearing out these chunks, I found another vein of diamonds, and I am now up to 34 total diamondes. On day 105, I was beginning to get annoyed with Lord Chickenton not laying eggs, so I looked up if chicken jockeys could, and it turns out they can't. So now, if I want to find more chickens, I'm going to need to find a second chicken jockey and have them breed to make other chickens that can actually lay eggs. So to drown out my sadness, I finished clearing out my 2 slime chunks, and I actually got one to spawn. It was a tiny one, but he dropped me 2 slime. However, while I was down here, I noticed that something felt kind of wrong. There was not that many mobs that were spawning in the area, which means something was taking up my hostile mob cap, which I soon found out was a ravine. And quick tip, you should never go into ravines in hardcore. However, I had to if I wanted to make my chunks super efficient so I could make a good mob farm in the future, so I went into the ravine, the thing that I just said you shouldn't do. Anyways, while exploring, I found this absolute convention of mobs down here. I mean, just look at them all. They're so ugly. And you can even see all the gravel that the Enderman placed. I cleared out this entire room and I ended up with 5 ender pearls from the pile of Endermen that I killed. I spent the rest of the day clearing out the ravine, and on the way back, I heard the beautiful sound of slimes. Now please include that laugh part. That was pretty funny. Now that my mob cap was cleared, the slimes were piling up like an e-girl's DMs. On day 106, it was back down to the slime farm, and there were a ton of boys. After mopping them up, I netted a clean 41 more slime. After this, I gathered some gold and went to the nether to trade with my piglin boat boys, and after a stack and a half of gold, I ended up with 21 leather. I used the leather to make more item frames, and I plonked them on more chests, and looking at it now, I realize that I'm going to need a lot more leather. I might just have to make a leather farm. Throughout the rest of the day, I kept going back down to the mine and collecting slime from the slime farm, and to end off the day, I harvested my bamboo, but I was rudely attacked by some sky demons. I mean, it's a good thing that bamboo was apparently their natural predator because they couldn't attack me. Anyways, I decided to sleep because unlike me in real life, I guess my Minecraft character needs rest. On day 107, I began preparation for a hoglin AFK farm so I could get all of the leather that I needed for my item frames. And I also would get free meat as an added bonus. Nothing like free meat. Never thought I would say that in my life. So I went to the nether and made a path to the nether ceiling, and I ender pearled through the bedrock. Now that I was on top of the nether ceiling, I made a nether portal, and it put me in the sky in the middle of nowhere about 800 blocks away from my house. And I also didn't have any wood for a boat because you can't make boats with nether wood. So I set my render distance to 64, and I actually spotted my base. And may I just add, it makes no sense whatsoever why I ended up this far away. But I guess in the future when I have an elytra, it'll be all good. So in the hopes of a dolphin helping me, I made a leap of faith that even Altair would fear into the water, and I swam the entire way home with zero assistance from the dolphins, may I add. I spent days 108 through 109 gathering supplies and heading to the nether to build my new hoglin decimator. If you also want to build one just like this, then you can visit Shulkercraft's channel because this is actually his design that I used. Anyways, this was super simple and quick to build, and it barely took any resources. Fun fact, did you know that if you force a hoglin through a nether portal to the overworld, that it will become a zombie hoglin? I mean, you probably knew that, but I needed something to say while I showed you me doing a banger job building this farm. After finishing the farm, I made an AFK platform in the sky, and I added some glass to the floor so I could watch all the devil pigs burn in a cool montage. Cue montage. So to make this montage, I AFK'd all the way until day 112, and just look at all of the loot I got. I ended up with 2.5 stacks of leather and a metric ton of pork chops. I went back to the overworld and boated my way home, and I crafted all of the sweet leather into the ultimate tool for organization. All hail the item frame. On day 113, I used all of the leather that I got from Otis the cow's pig friends in the nether to make item frames for all of my chests, so I could finally stop living in a tool shed. Plus, I could also start some quality OCD organization. The process of making these item frames and putting them on all the chests and organizing them took me the next 3 days. I wanted the storage to be just right, and this layout was much different in comparison to my regular hardcore series. Plus, there were also things that I couldn't even get in this world, like totems of undying. I mean, probably. Right? On day 117, I had some massive inspiration. I wanted to make my base look more like a series of islands with docks in between them, but I needed way more resources for that, so I began the day with some good old-fashioned deforestation. After clearing some land, I began planning what I would need to build a juicy iron farm and where I was actually going to put the farm. I spent the next couple of days non-stop switching between this world and my regular hardcore world so I could copy the iron farm that I made there, since I built that like, I don't know, months ago. I started off by building the loot sorter and the kill chamber, and then I added the 4 areas where iron golems would spawn and be pushed down into the fiery pits of hell. Now, the only thing that I needed to finish the iron farm was the villager platforms, except that means I now needed 20 beds, which is 240 string. On day 122, I delivered a villager to my downstairs lair, and I began re-rolling him for looting 3. I definitely needed looting if I'm going to need a lot of string string because this meant that I would need to turn that mine shaft that I found into a spider farm. And unfortunately, this took the entire day. So finally, after 420 trades and many rude comments about a sponge fry cook later, I got my looting 3 boy for only 25 emeralds. I went to put the enchantment on my beautifully named sword Thought Thrower, except I was short by 1 level, which is odd because being the 6'11" gamer that I am, I've certainly never experienced being short before. So this apparently is how it feels. Anyways, I used my large pro gamer brain and mined some nether quartz for some quick XP, even though my mending pick ate most of it. After this, I added a looting to Thought Thrower, and I would have named it Thought Thrower Deluxe or something, but I was all out of levels. Boy, do I need that bamboo farm. But for that, I need iron. When will the capitalism end? On day 123, I headed back to the Spidertopia, my absolute favorite place in the world, except this time things would be different. With full diamond Prot 4 armor and food with actual saturation, these poison boys were no match for me. I lit up the spawner and I broke all of the webs, and at this rate, those 4 stacks of string were going to be super easy to get. I was going to begin laying out the area and make a spider farm, but I kept hearing more spiders. So while exploring, I actually found another spider spawner that was not that far away. I also lit this one up and I took all of the string, and I am now the proud owner of 2 stacks of string already. Also, it turns out that both of these spider spawners were close enough that I could make a super efficient spider spawner farm. While down here, I continued to hear more mob sounds, plus I may have gotten distracted by stealing the rails that I needed for my bamboo farm, and it actually turned out that this mine shaft connected to a pretty large cave system. So I went through lighting it up and Control-Alt deleting all of the mobs, and I was desperately trying to stuff more loot into my inventory. While looting this cave, I actually found 3 more diamonds. So I decided to run home and dump all of my new precious loot before I began making my spider farm, and it turns out that I was down there until day 126. You can really get lost in time while caving. Anyways, after that trip, I had enough wool to make 13 out of the 20 beds I needed. Also, I may or may not have removed the block that stopped the villagers from breeding, just maybe. It's all good though, because I needed to dam 20 of them to an eternal life of producing screams in the iron golem farm for my profit. Wow, that sounds worse on paper. Kinda like the plot to Monsters Inc. if you think about it. I spent days 127 through 130 clearing out a huge area for my spider spawners. Unfortunately, they were just far enough away from each other that this farm is kind of going to be a mess. But I did find 10 more diamonds in the wall right underneath that tunnel that I dug while trying to hide from the spiders in the first 100 days. After finishing digging out the area, I added a spider barrier using trapdoors and slabs, and I did the terrifying task of nerd pulling around the room to delete all of the torches while also dodging the raining nightmares. And now this area is all set up and I officially have a functional string farm. It might not be the most efficient, but at least the mobs are far enough away from the spawners that I can AFK and they will keep spawning. So after only a couple of minutes of AFKing, I had enough wool to make 10 more beds, so I had what I needed, and it was finally time to head home. On day 131, I built a mismatched ugly dark room so I could hopefully spawn a zombie to be my scare factor for the iron farm. Except this process took the entire day because absolutely nothing wanted to spawn. After expanding it and wasting most of the day, I got some zombies to finally spawn, so I trapped one of them in a minecart and I sent him up to his forever merry-go-round. Or at least that's what I would say if this jerk didn't fight me at every step of the process and waste even more of my time. To make things worse, my roller coaster was missing some redstone tracks, so he shot right back down into the dark room. At this point, it was becoming daytime, so I just gave him a name tag which said Bob the Builder, which I have no clue why I came up with that. It was just the first thing that came to my mind. And I left him there to just chill in his new ride. On day 132, I spent the entire day gathering resources and replicating the first of the 4 village chambers. Did this take way longer than it should have? Yes. Yes, it did. But now that I had the layout down, I could just do it 3 more times from memory and add the villagers. Anyways, it was already nighttime, so I took our friend Bob the Builder on his roller coaster ride of his life. Hope he enjoys it because he will be spinning right round for the rest of his life. Guess I should have called him Flowrida. After trapping Flowrida in 2009, I found a wandering trader, except this man had no saplings. Nothing new here. So I struggled to kill him because he kept squirming around when he was invisible. And right after this, I noticed that the sun was somehow already rising and I hadn't built Bob the Builder his roof yet. So I quickly made my way back up the roller coaster and I desperately struggled to cover Bob with slabs so he wouldn't burn in the sun. And guess what? The stupid sky demons made their return cameo on the show called Pain Suffering by knocking me down. Honestly, I was lucky that it was also raining because that was a pretty close one. I didn't even have the right blocks to finish the roof, and it's all mismatched and hideous. On day 133, I finished the slab roof over top of the zombie and the future villager houses so they wouldn't get hit by lightning or have an iron golem somehow join their scare party. After this, I cleaned up all of the random blocks and the roller coaster that I had made, and there was only one thing left to do, and that was deliver the villagers. Deliver the villagers. Day 134 was going to be a big day. Today was the great villager migration to the sky village of Scaretopia, and this process was mega satisfying. Just look at all these mans go. It was all smooth sailing until the villager escaped while I was trying to get out of the villager pit. The man ended up in the trap, so I put him out of his misery. I mean, no one ever said villagers were smart. During this, I also got my first iron golem to spawn, and he was stuck because I didn't properly place the water. Nice. So I spent the next 2 days delivering the final villagers and spending more time than I would have liked to admit trying to fix the water in each chamber, just to realize that I actually did the water right. And I'm just an idiot that didn't open the fence gates. Just pretend that that didn't happen, and I don't want to see any comments about it. Instead, you should totally say something like, wow, look at those iron golems fall to their doom. Such a cool and efficient farm. And just like that, my new iron farm was officially complete, and I have already generated 26 iron in basically no time. On day 137, I began the day by cleaning up the massive mess that I made while building the iron farm. I sorted all of the items into my storage system, and I tore down that horrendous dark platform. After this, I checked the farm, and this thing had already made me a stack in 2 iron. Noni. I spent the rest of day 137 and half of day 138 measuring a circular base around the cobblestone floor and separating it so I could begin making the whole ocean world aesthetic that I mentioned earlier. I replaced all of the gross cobble with some classy stone brick, and I added blackstone brick walls with lanterns. By the time I finished this, my iron farm was already up to 2 stacks and 54 ingots. So say hello to my future bamboo farm. After this, I decided to go down to the mines and see if I had any more slimes to farm because I still needed more slime blocks for the bamboo farm. And while down here, I actually heard a ton of mobs in the walls, so I decided to dig and found another mine shaft right below my base. This was actually perfect because there are definitely caves around my base anyways, because not that many hostile mobs were spawning in the dark room that I just broke down. While down here, I was super cautious for creepers, and guess who almost gave me a literal heart attack? Also, it turned out that this mine shaft connected to 2 more ravines, and also connected to a huge labyrinth of caves. Anyways, with this all lit up, my future mob farm will probably be going ham 24/7. Plus, I also found a single diamond inside of this ravine. Nice. Looting this whole cave system took all the way until day 148, and I got over 8 stacks of iron and 13 diamonds. Plus, lighting up all those caves is already affecting my spawns. I mean, just look at these voluptuous slimes. Why did I say voluptuous? That is such a gross word. Anyways, I now had looting 3, so all of these boys dropped me a stack and a half of slime. On days 149 through 150, now that I had endless iron in production, I shifted my attention back to Operation Islandification, where I would make this place look way less swear. So I began the day by harvesting my long-neglected bamboo farm, and just look at the durability it used from my sword. It might not look like a lot, but it is. Anyways, now that my stick collection has been restocked, I can do some more beautiful capitalism with the boys. I would say I miss this, but my villagers' trades are messed up again. Anyways, the reason why I needed more capitalism in my life was to repair my silk touch pick, so that way I could raid more of the crimson biome for its special dirts, and I could continue to make the crimson forest around my pyramid. But first, I made a brand new shiny diamond hoe, so I could also collect the netherwort blocks. And you can just guess what I named it. Also, ironically, your mother was so powerful that she broke my anvil. Anyways, cue nether murder montage. On day 151, I made 22 golden apples because I realized that up until now, I haven't had any on me, and you really should have them 24/7 in hardcore just to be safe. After this, I went back to the nether to collect some more supplies because I decided that I wanted to go half and half with the nether dirts around my pyramid. While in the nether, I also killed 2 endermen and they dropped me 6 pearls. Like, damn, looting 3, you shouldn't have. I don't know why I said it like that. I spent the rest of day 151 and all of day 152 outlining and filling in the nether dirt around my pyramid. While doing this, I also had a super cool idea of making 4 towers around the corners of my pyramid and making each of them have a tier 4 beacon made of whole blocks like diamond, gold, iron, and maybe even the coveted netherite. That is, after I eventually have enough TNT to destroy 100 Minecraft servers. So later that night, I decided to put my nether forest on pause and I began building a path to where my new creeper and spider farm would be. Except I had to clear out some of my bamboo for this. Once my mob farm is built, I can build up TNT for some ancient debris mining. I spent all of day 153 setting up the path and struggling to properly measure the perimeter for the creeper farm. On day 154, I began building the killing platform with magma blocks and the collection area for the creeper farm. I would make this a cool cinematic sped up clip, but I had to keep switching worlds to slowly copy my creeper farm from my regular hardcore world. I began by increasing the amount of chests to store the loot in, and this time I'm not going to auto sort them, but I now know that I'm going to need way more storage than I had last time. After this, I built the endless railroad circuit for the minecart hopper to collect the drops on, and I finished off the night by building the magma platform that would be killing the spiders and the creepers. I began day 155 by finishing the collection platform for the creeper farm. This is where Katara will water bend all of the spiders and creepers into the center, where the magma blocks will smelt them. I finished the perimeter around the farm and I began filling it in, except I ran out of stone. Luckily, I remembered that I hid tons of stone in the chest back where I dug out the old inefficient double spider spawner farm. So I ran back there to collect it and I ended up with an entire inventory full of stone. I spent the whole night filling in the platform with water and things were looking pretty good. Then while cleaning up the infinite water source, I jumped into the water and I heard a lot of undead simps underwater. And because my trusted sword thought thrower was looking for a fight, I dug down to find this metric ton of boys surrounding this creeper who killed half of them. I cleaned up the rest of the stands and I began lighting up the caves to further increase the efficiency of my creeper farm. And while down here, I found this huge scuffed ravine system with floating water sources. This ravine continued into several cave systems and another ravine that was also chock full of creepy boys and COD players. This adventure took all the way until day 158 to finish. On day 159, I went to the nether to restock some wood for the fence gates and trapdoors I would need for my new creepy boy farm. After finishing the clock, I spent the next 10 days working on the 10 individual spawning platforms for the mobs. During this, I ran out of wood several times because you need a ton of trapdoors for each layer, so I finally planted that jungle sapling that I had so I could get tons of wood for it. Or that's what I would say if it didn't drop absolutely 0 saplings. I guess I no longer have jungle wood, so it was back to the nether for some more nether trees, since it would technically be less work and the wood would actually match the rest of the layers, even though I know I won't see them anyways. It is what it is. So now that my inventory was full of trapdoors, it was time to grind out the mob layers, and I was probably going to run out of stone next. I decided to build a tower of the observers and dispensers first, so I knew just how many layers I would need, and to assert my dominance over the mob spawns, I MLG water bucketed my way down, and damn have I gotten good at it. On day 171, I ran out of stone and I was almost out of trapdoors again, so I spent the whole day AFK mining stone until I had 2 inventories full of stone brick. I also got to see my first explodey boy fall to his doom during this day, and I'm honestly surprised it's working already since there's a ton of torches on it. On day 172, I went back to the nether and I hated every second of getting more wood for this mess of red trees. After this, I went back and crafted all of the wood into more trapdoors, and I spent the next 2 days slaving away to finish the final layers. And on day 174, I finished it. Except I didn't have any torches, so if I left the roof, it would become a B-52 bomber full of creepers. So I spent the rest of the night just admiring the sights. Just look at my beautiful iron golem farm. Isn't it so exquisite and juicy? Also, take a look at that beautiful shiny black pyramid. Plus, while up here, I actually got to watch the sunrise for once. To begin day 175 off with a splash, I took a leap of faith into the water. Altier would be so proud. I spent the rest of this day placing the walls around the creeper farm, and halfway through I ran out of stone. So I spent the whole next day mining stone and back to placing more walls. I feel like after this process, I'm gonna have stone flashbacks. Just look at my poor pickaxe. Anyways, the new creeper and spider farm is officially operational, and Operation Spider Explosion is a huge go. Isn't that a cool name? I just came up with that on the spot. I mean, just listen to all of the mobs that are in this trap already. I literally was standing on top of the farm and these mobs were still spawning. TNT production is also officially a go. On day 178, I made a new diamond shovel and I went to add Unbreaking 3 and Efficiency 5 to it so I could begin my sand mining expedition. Except I ran out of XP, so I had to harvest my bamboo again. Now that my inventory was thick with sticks, I went to do some capitalism for some more XP. After this, I added Unbreaking to my shovel and I named it Sand Seducer because, I mean, that's technically its job, right? On day 179, I remembered that my blast furnaces for my auto smelter saved all of their XP and I broke them and ended up with 20 levels. After this, I decided to get another villager so I could roll him for Respiration 3, which would make my sand gathering so much more tolerable. I transferred 2 villagers into my base and I began trading for some sweet juicy emeralds and XP. Also, while struggling to get this guy into my boat, my subtitles said there was a wandering trader. I looked for him on my roof and he had no saplings. Guess I'll never get any of the new woods. I didn't want them anyways, right? Anyways, I threw these thoughts with my Thought Thrower Deluxe Sword. Order yours today in the comments below. After pushing my first guy into his new home, his very first trade was Depth Strider 3, which was also exactly one of the 2 enchants that I needed. On day 181, I combined my Respiration 3 book with Aqua Infinity and I tried to add it to my helmet, except you guessed it, I needed more XP. So after trading for countless bows, I added Respiration 3 and Aqua Infinity to my helmet. I checked how much it would cost for the boots and I needed 12 more levels for Depth Strider, so I went down to the mine to check for some slimes, and there were some big Chongy boys. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Chongy is the plural for multiple Chunguses, also known as Chungai. Anyways, killing these boys only got me 1 level, and I did get over a stack of slime. On day 182, I did some beautiful capitalism for some XP, and I added Depth Strider to my boots. Now that I was a speedy boy, it was time to go for a swim, and it wouldn't be a PainDomination video without a sand montage. Cue montage.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Also, not gonna lie, I have never actually used Aqua Infinity. This is pretty insane. It's like I'm just walking on land, but underwater. Plus, now I also have an insane way to gather tons of gravel and glint for emeralds and XP and dirt. On day 183, I had the brilliant idea that I wanted to add Fortune 3 to my shovel so I could print emeralds with the current villagers that I had. Except I needed 16 more levels for that. So it was back to doing some more beautiful capitalism. And just look at how beautiful it is. Now that I have crazy flint, string, and sticks, it is capitalism central at my base. Easy XP, easy emeralds. I spent the next 3 days continuing to gather more resources and AFKing for more gunpowder from my creeper farm. On day 187, I noticed that my creeper farm wasn't quite efficient enough for my expensive tastes, so I built a 140 block tall tower of scaffolding and I created a sky chamber so I could properly AFK for insane amounts of TNT. I didn't really need this much TNT, but I wanted it, especially if one day I was going to make a netherite beacon, because every 5 stacks of gunpowder and 4 stacks of sand becomes 1 stack of TNT. On day 190, I gathered all of my sand and gunpowder together and I had enough to make 6 stacks of TNT. So I crafted all 6 stacks, and while crafting, I thought about how unnecessary it is to have full netherite before killing the ender dragon, but I don't care because it's time to blow stuff up. I also realized that this entire time I still haven't made an ender chest, which is weird because that's normally one of the first things that I do. I guess an ocean-only world changes a man. After gearing up, I dug a path down to around Y20 in the nether, and I began the mother of all TNT montages. Let's see what we got. Cue montage. This process took all the way until day 197. And honestly, my overall luck was absolutely awful. I spent 6 stacks of TNT and I only ended up with 32 ancient debris. But I mean, hey, that's still full netherite armor, I guess. On day 198, while cooking my netherite, I noticed something in the water in the distance. It was a chicken! Another chicken! So I quickly grabbed my boat and went over to grab my new friend. I was pretty stoked because now I had 2 chickens and I could officially start breeding them. So I used some seeds to lead her up out of the water and I led her into the pen, and Sir Chickenton is no longer lonely. I fed them seeds and they now have a baby. More importantly, they have a baby that can actually lay eggs. After this, I grabbed my freshly smelted netherite scraps and I made 8 netherite ingots. I used these ingots to change my entire set of diamond armor into this spicy armor. And honestly, netherite armor just looks so good. I used the remaining 4 to transform my sword and my 2 pickaxes, and I used the last netherite to mark the netherite chest. Yes, that's right. I made a chest just for netherite. Very cash money of me, I know. On day 199, I went back to the nether fortress to get some blaze rods that I needed so I could finally find and defeat the ender dragon. After farming the blaze spawner for a bit, I got way more than I needed because of the beautiful looting 3, so I went back home and I crafted 32 eyes of ender. I mean, just in case I lost a bunch of them to the always consuming ocean. After this, I grabbed all of my loot together and I was ready to find the end. So I right-clicked my eye of ender and nothing happened. I clicked it again and nothing happened. And then it hit me. Do ocean worlds even have strongholds? So after some sad Googling, I found the answer. It was no. After coming to the conclusion that there was no stronghold in the world, and this was a world that I wanted to play long term, I did what must be done. So I started a land world and I did /locate just to see if there was a stronghold, and there was no stronghold. So I came to the sad conclusion that I was going to have to spawn the end portal frames in if I wanted to go to the end. And of course I did. I mean, I know you want to see me fight the dragon, so it's not like I'm cheating. I have all the supplies I needed. So please, instead of saying something ignorant and rude in the comments like, oh, you cheated, be nice and be like, wow, what a smart and dedicated guy. He's opening himself up to people saying he cheated for the sake of his content. GG. So I did the most disgusting thing that I could do in a hardcore world, and I used the disgusting /give portal frames command. So now that I had the portal frames, I made a platform for it in between my 2 farms, and I placed the farms, then I lit the portal. Maybe in the future I could make this into some kind of shrine. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, this part felt really wrong doing this because I've played so many hardcore worlds, and the second something like this happens, kind of like my Arlcraft series, it just feels wrong. Like the second that I had to go into spectator mode to get out of that glitch in RLCraft, I felt like I had soiled the world, and I really don't like that. So please be nice in the comments. I didn't want to have to do this, but there are literally 0 strongholds in this world, and I think that might be my fault because in Paul GG's video, he had ocean monuments. I don't have ocean monuments. I think the type of ocean world that I made doesn't spawn monuments or strongholds, and I kind of screwed up on that. But anyways, after placing the portal, it was now day 200, and my inventory was ready, so I stared into my illegitimate portal in disgust, and I jumped through. And instantly, I realized that I forgot my bow, but you know what? That's okay. This is like a handicap in a way to make up for the end portal that I had to spawn in. Anyways, this fight was pretty good, so cue montage. Surprisingly, this battle ended pretty quickly. I had to wait for him to perch each time, and I was crazy over-prepared even without my bow. I right-clicked the egg, and it almost pushed me into the portal by teleporting me. So I right-clicked it again, and I collected my prize with a torch. I jumped through the portal, and just like that, I had beaten the game and survived 200 days in a hardcore ocean-only world. Upon getting back home, I fed my growing chicken population, and just look at them, aren't they beautiful? Let me know in the comments what I should name Lord Chickington's wife before she gets lost in the horde of chickens. The most liked comment will be her new name, so please don't let me down. And just like that, I survived 200 days of hardcore Minecraft in an ocean-only world. This video was honestly so much fun to make, and I'm having a ton of fun in this world. If you also love the series and want to see me get an elytra and take over the ocean in 300 days, then don't forget to leave a like on the video. It really helps me out, and it means a ton to me. Also, I wanted to give a quick thank you to all my channel members. You are all crazy awesome, and I really appreciate all your extra support. If you do want to help support me, then I do consider becoming a channel member by smacking that join button down below. Anyways, if you've made it this far in the video, then I'm sure I have more videos that you need to see. Check out my 100 Days of RLCraft series and my regular hardcore Minecraft series. I promise you won't be disappointed. Anyways, this has been PainDomination, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.